opened the first gig last night in New Hampshire of the 2020 leg of our tour and rocked the house. Played all the greats, Jump, Jamie's Crying, and more. He'll be with us across America. Welcome to the tour, Dave.
So he was nice as can be. Paul Stanley was interviewed recently at the opening of one of his Rockin' Brews. Paul Stanley said Dave's got so many great songs. The Van Halen catalog is terrific, and that's what he's doing. And people love to hear those songs. Having him on the tour is something that really appealed to us. Nicey nice. Then Dave.
Everyone's playing nice.
Everybody's playing a nicey nice because everybody's making the money. All right, so listen to this. So then Dave says in an interview,
Kiss has transcended the bias of music the way Cirque du Soleil or Blue Man Group has. I myself would recommend to them that, if in fact this is the final tour, perhaps go Blue Man Group. Why couldn't there be 6 variations of Kiss traveling on the continent? It includes so much more than music. It begins with the music, and it extends into the theater, and I'll say with respect, circus. And then he says, for myself, I'm calling this the last tour unless it isn't. That's
Good
Dave.
cover.
That's
Good
Dave.
cover.
And he says, once I throw in the shoes, though, I'm thinking of going Lassie. There will be 5 of me touring, and allegedly one of them will be a girl. You're going to have to come and see the shows several times. And he said one line about himself that sums up his entire fucking career. This interview I'm quoting from was with the Lexington Herald Leader. This is what he said. David Lee Roth is not a rock band. David Lee Roth is an attitude. And I think that just sums Dave up. So, Dave, what do you make of all this stuff that I just told you?
Wow, I didn't even know you went to the show. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have been reading positive reviews about Dave opening up.
Right.
Which is sometimes surprising because people are quick to bag on Dave. But I've been hearing nothing but good things and improvement.
Right.
The more the tour goes on. So I'm super psyched for him to hear that.
Right.
I think the fact he's compacting it into 45 minutes is helping him out. And he's doing a really short show.
Right.
So I think that helps him out in the vocal department. Sounds like he's making some hard and serious decisions about the band. So he's trying to get the best band he can.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like a really good show. Everyone's playing nice. Everyone's performing well. So, man, keep it up. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So now also when Dave was in Allentown, okay, he visited the local School of Rock. And my kids all went to School of Rock on Long Island. They grew up going to School of Rock. They went through all the things. And he made a surprise visit at the School of Rock where he inquired about utilizing their rehearsal space. And this guy, Ray Theron, the co-owner and general manager, said he came in and the guy's larger than life. He stopped in the parking lot to greet one of our young keyboard students and his dad, and he signed autographs, and he posed for pictures, and he chatted with the students. He said he was incredibly kind and generous. So that's nice to hear, and Dave's a congenial guy and seems to have some respect for the young people out there. What do you make of that?
That was very cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice. That goes a long way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, here's the other thing with Dave. We told you in the last podcast that he's going to be doing festivals. Well, he announced another one. Dave is playing Firefly, June 18th through the 21st. I don't know which day he's going to be on. They haven't announced that yet. The Woodlands in Dover, Delaware. At Firefly, it's going to be Rage Against the Machine, Billie Eilish, believe it or not, Halsey, Blink-182, Diplo, Cage the Elephant, and there's a whole bunch more. Dave made it to the 4th row of the bill on this one, so he's, I have to say, though, he's the only kind of rock guy. Well, I guess Rage Against the Machine is rock, so what am I talking about? But I mean, from his era, at least. He sort of sticks in there, but how cool would it be for Billie Eilish and Dave to do a duet? What do you think about that?
That would be awesome. Hey, isn't the band that did the cover of Dancing in the Streets on that bill, too?
Yes, the Struts.
The Struts, thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Now, how cool would that be if he came out and sang that song with
That
them?
would be amazing. And those guys, I love the Struts. Struts, one of my all-time favorite new bands. I think they are the best. So those guys are fantastic. Luke, their singer, in my opinion, is the next biggest rock star. He's unbelievable. He's like a cross between Steven Tyler, Freddie Mercury, and Rod Stewart. He's unbelievable. And Mick Jagger, unbelievable. He's got some DNA in him. So, Dave, did you hear about this? So this is crazy. All right, now this is probably, I'm going to tout this as this might be the biggest news we have this time out. So Eddie Trunk was with his radio show, Trunk Nation, okay? He was broadcasting from the Monsters of Rock cruise. And Extreme was on the cruise. And Gary Cherone, the former lead singer of Van Halen, he was on there, and he came on with Eddie. And, of course, Eddie Trunk squeezed them a little bit for some Van Halen information. And let me tell you something, some leaked out. Apparently, Gary said he's back in touch with Eddie Van Halen and has been for the past couple years. And he said when Eddie asked him how he was, he said he's okay. He's okay. So that's kind of good news that, Ed's doing okay. It sounds not like, oh my God, he's amazing. He sounds like he's in a safe zone right now, whatever that means. I'm just interpreting like Gary's tone and everything. But he's back in touch with him. He says they reconnected a few years ago, and when Eddie asked him how, were you at like some function or something and you ran into him? He said, no, just a phone call. And he said, well, who made the phone call? And he goes, I can't get into details. Then he says this is crazy. He was so careful about every word that came out of his mouth. I mean, you think you were talking,
he was.
You think you were talking about John Gotti. I mean, it was unbelievable. So he says that's a tight circle, referring to the Van Halens. It's all about loyalty. You're not going to get a lot out of me right now. And then he says, when I left the band, there wasn't any bad blood. We separated, and then we hooked up again. And then he said it was just a call. And then Eddie started saying, why don't you come back? Because they're obviously done with Roth. They're never going to get back together with Sam because he burnt that bridge so much. Eddie said, why don't you do it? Gary said, I'm in the batter's box. And then he was joking around. He said, oh, let me call Eddie right now, as a joke, Eddie said, listen, I heard some of those demos of that second record you were going to make because you played them for me. He says, that would have been a fantastic album. And then Gary said, it was in the strike zone of classic VH. We were more comfortable as a band. When I joined the band, it was a whirlwind. But if we were to do it all again, and then he trailed off. And he says the material would have headed in that direction. Then Eddie was saying, why don't you go on tour with them? You could sing both catalogs. And Gary said, hey, I'm cheap. I thought that was brilliant. But
that's true.
I couldn't believe it. This all started out because Van Halen tribute band, the Atomic Punks, were on the ship. And Eddie was saying how good they were and they sound amazing. And he said, oh, the world needs Eddie Van Halen again and this and that. But let me tell you something. Gary was choosing his words very carefully. It's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, because he's back friends with Ed and he doesn't want to blow it.
Yeah, obviously. But I have a feeling something's going on. I really, really do. And you know what? I wouldn't even call it like Van Halen in the sense like I don't think they're going to reboot Van Halen with Gary. I have a feeling that Eddie just might be working with Gary and Gary doing vocals on something, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I have a feeling, who knows? Maybe Ed will do a solo album and have Gary sing. I mean, I don't...
You think it's that, or you think that Gary's just friends with Eddie Van Halen again and he's trying not to blow it by giving away too much by talking to Eddie Trunk?
I tell you what, there's that, but I'm going to also say this, okay? Everything is crazy right now. All of these bands, no one does one thing anymore. Everybody's in a million bands. Like, for example, he gave an update on Extreme. He said their new album is done. He said it's in Nuno's hands. He's tweaking it. And he says it's the best stuff they've done in a while, and we're really excited about it. The band is opening up for Aerosmith for their 50th anniversary show in Boston. So that's happening. He's playing with the Kings of Chaos, which is sort of like a super group that goes on tour. It's like Dee Snider, Jack Blades, Matt Sorum, and they're apparently going to be doing a show in New Mexico on June 20th or something like that. But, Nuno has gone out and toured with Rihanna. Like, I don't think there's like any sort of like, oh, I'm just the lead singer of Extreme type of thing. I think everybody's grabbing every bean they can at this point. These guys are scraping. They're scraping. But I have a feeling that there is some unfinished business with Gary. I don't think, you have to realize they don't have, the marketing pressures of Warner Brothers behind them and all of that. Like, all of that is gone. You know what I mean? Like, if Eddie can kind of casually do something with Gary, and, it's not going to be on a major label, he could just do it for the sake of doing it. At this point. Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be the big Van Halen album. Like, like the pressure on Van Halen 3 was insane. And also, let's be honest, Eddie wasn't exactly in the greatest condition to be, making the album that he was making. Well, what do you think, Dave? What is your opinion?
I don't know that they're necessarily working on anything. I think, but I do agree with you that if they did do something, the pressure's off.
Yeah.
And they could just do whatever they want.
Right.
Some kind of solo project, even just like a song or two or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be interesting to hear for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very curious, but I have a feeling there's just something slightly brewing. And you know what? I don't even think it would tour. It might not even be called Van Halen, number one. I don't think it would be called Van Halen. I don't think it would be on Warner Brothers. I don't think they'd tour it. I think it would just be Gary going up to 5150, and he's like, hey, you want me to change the sheets on the old bed in the in the guest house?
Well, he could just be jamming with them, and it will just be something else that gets recorded at 5150 that we may never hear.
Right, exactly. That could be that, too. You never know. You never know. So now, speaking of albums, Wolf is getting to be a bit of a wise guy, even more than he was. So Wolf went on a new app called Byte, which is hashtag BYTE. And he posted clips of himself performing new music. He says, this is the music I've been working on for a while now. Some old, some new. And then Ed urged Wolf to post it on Instagram, and then he put a clip on Instagram. This is a little clip of it right here. Now, when the hell is this thing ever going to see the light of day? I'm wondering if he's going to even start over, Dave, at this point and start recording new material. I swear to God.
Maybe he could. Who knows? We just don't know what the plan is, if there is one.
Yeah.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This just in, Wolfgang Van Halen has signed a record deal with Explorer One music group from Los Angeles, California. Apparently, he's in the final stages of recording at 5150 Studios with producer Elvis Bisquet. The record has been called a collection of diverse material of original songs ranging from haunting ballads to stomping rock classics. All the instruments and vocals were recorded by Wolfie. There's no title or release date for the album, but Wolfie said, it's been a long time coming and I can't wait for everyone to hear what I've been working on.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Now, this really shocked me. And this is a conversation, Dave, and see if you recall this, that we had driving back from the Cabo Wabo when we were in Vegas. We were in the car with Ron and Ron, We had this conversation just as we were pulling back into our hotel, and holy shit, we would have never guessed that we were close